They did a bad, bad thing. 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 You ever love someone so much you thought your little heart was gonna break in two? But I didn't think so. You ever try with all your heart and soul to get your lover back to you? I wanna hope so. You ever pray with all your heart and soul just to watch her walk away? They did a bad, bad thing. They did a bad, bad thing.
Hello, I'm Thomas Carruthers.
And I'm Jay Reef.
And Jay, it's Christmas time.
Ho, ho, ho.
Now, before we get into the Christmas film that we're going to talk about today, have we done... I don't think I've had you on for a Christmas film yet. No.
Wait, really?
When was it? Let me have a look at our last Christmases. Our first Christmas was in 2000 and COVID or whatever.
2000 and COVID.
I had you on for the we did a mini Twilight Zone of the Christmas special.
Yeah.
And then Seven's not really a Christmas film.
It isn't?
No, it should be. Neither is
It should
Saw. The Shining has snow. The Shining does have snow, and The Shining also brings us on to what we're talking about today, because The Shining is our
What a segue.
only other currently recorded Stanley Kubrick film, and it was also me and you.
True.
And what's next on the list? I mean, that's a stupid question, but like after this, is there a Kubrick film that you're like, yeah, that? Because personally, for me, Eyes Wide Shut is my favorite Kubrick film.
Mm-hmm.
Although I've got a stupid best of list, because I've got The Shining at 11 and then I've got Eyes Wide Shut at 25. But in many ways, arguably, I prefer Eyes Wide Shut. So Eyes Wide Shut, The Shining, and then what's your like? Well, no, tell me first if that's not your top two.
Well, I mean, considering the fact that I'm pretty sure I've only watched those two.
Have you never watched Clockwork Orange or anything?
No, that's the one I want to watch next, though.
It's very good. It's very good. But you got in first year you had a beautiful Blu-ray box set arrived.
I do, and I've yet to watch them all.
Oh, that's all right. Ryan O'Neill died the other day. You could watch Barry Lyndon in honor of Ryan O'Neill.
Oh,
yeah.
I could. I'm interested in Barry Lyndon as well.
Barry Lyndon's
I'm
great.
interested in all of them, obviously. But...
So, is this where I found out that you'd never seen it before, or have you seen Eyes Wide Shut before?
No, I have seen Eyes Wide Shut before.
What do you think? Because we did. I can't remember. I think it was on a Friday night or a Saturday night. We all watched The Shining, and it became a kind of like a party because they invited some other flats over. What do you think a communal Eyes Wide Shut experience would have been like?
Well, I don't know. I think there'd be a lot of. I mean, the first scene's pretty straightforward with the at the party, with the almost blatant cheating.
With the wonderful Hungarian man who I could talk about for hours.
God, yep.
Do you realize why a lot of women got married was so that they could lose their virginities? I think
with the people they wanted
to have sex with. I think there would be a lot of blank silence as people looked at me and me laughing hysterically, and going, "Why is he laughing?"
That's funny because I watched this with Olivia.
Oh yes, and how did she find it?
Oh, she actually really enjoyed it.
It's just wonderful. I've watched it with one intimate partner, and her big note was she liked it a lot, but she got very annoyed with Bill, as I think we should.
Yes, he's a moron.
And her big note was, needed more Nicole Kidman. Like every time Nicole was on screen, she was like, "This is knockout."
True.
And I completely
forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot how little she was actually in it until I rewatched it this morning. Yeah.
Now, I personally feel that she's deployed like dynamite every single time she is deployed. It's wonderful, incredible, and she knocks it out of the park. I don't know. I don't think it is a performance where that could have been diluted if she was in more. But I also don't think that that's really the arc of what the story is here. And I don't know where we would put her in other than making the opening scenes longer. And I have no problem with the pace or length of this film, but I don't think it needs to be made longer.
No. Yes, it is very long. Although, to be honest, I could watch Tom Cruise wandering around New York and failing to have sex with people for another hour. But
yeah, I could watch it forever. The down boom boom. I remember Eyes Wide Shut. I mean, I've talked about this before on the podcast of like when I was a kid and I was getting into movies and I was getting into buying DVDs, there was a process of, even though I had my own disposable income and it was my money, there was still that parental guidance of, before I would go to the checkout, I would bring my mum or dad or whatever, the 5 DVDs that I wanted to buy. And I was always like very disappointed when there were 2 things that got in the way of certain movies. Like when my mum and dad knew that it was famously sexual or violent, or when the cover looked provocative. Now, it wasn't that I was watching these movies I mean, I've told the story 1,000 times of when Wolf of Wall Street was coming out, and that's 2013, so I was 13, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, yeah, you see Margot Robbie's tits," and I kept going, "Oh yeah," and I'm really excited to watch it because in many ways it's a return to the Goodfellas style of filmmaking that Scorsese adopted. Like, and I remember, and my mum letting me watch Wolf of Wall Street because she understood its Oscar campaign. So in many ways, I was fortunate in that sense. However, I can't actually remember under what circumstance I first watched Eyes Wide Shut. I had the DVD version of that Blu-ray box set that we both have, which has all of those. It didn't have Lolita. Didn't have Lolita.
And it doesn't have actually, does it have Dr. Strangelove?
Mine does. I don't know if yours does.
I don't know if mine does.
But well, I mean, he only made 15 movies. It's not 15 movies over 60 years, which brings us, there's lots of big ticket items to touch on, and I don't know what to touch on first. I guess I want to touch on first, I mean, broad strokes, when did you first come to Eyes Wide Shut?
It was before, I'd say probably 4 years ago-ish, maybe. I don't think there was a specific reason why I watched it other than the fact that it was, I know it's more mixed. It's got more of a mixed reception in comparison to other films.
But then when you look at it, those other films also have a somewhat mixed reception. True.
But I think the fact that it was slightly more mixed made me more interested in watching it, and I'm glad I did, because I loved it. It's one of my favorite films.
There is insurmountable pressure and hype around this project by a variety of reasons, in Kubrick's control and not in his control. Above all else, which is something that he definitely wasn't in control of, was his tragic sudden death 4 days after delivering the final cut to the studio, which then becomes huge speculation, because we know after the premiere of 2001 and The Shining, he cut about 20 minutes from 2001 and about the ending 10 minutes or whatever from The Shining. So he was known to make edits after the fact. Then there's the UK cut of The Shining, and there's the US cut. There are different cuts of. Sorry, pardon me.
Right.
There are. The Shining's the only one where different cuts exist, because the extra footage from Clockwork Orange and 2001 he burnt. Now,
right.
Because it was like, this is the final project. I don't believe in delete. Well, I don't think he said the phrase deleted scenes, but I don't believe in that sort of thing.
There was no missing pieces.
There's no missing pieces. And when you think of it, it is quite Lynchian in that way, because apart from Firewalk with Me and Blue Velvet, there isn't that sort of missing pieces.
No, not really.
I mean,
actually, Inland Empire has
some, bunnies and all that. Yeah,
like an hour. So
true.
But
so there is that speculation of, was this actually the final cut? There's a lot of conflicting reports. Ali Ermey, the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket, says he had a phone call with Stanley a week before.
I just remembered that I have seen Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket is great, yeah. And he was like, he said, he told me it was a piece of shit. He said it sucks. But then his daughter said, that's not true. I don't think that phone call ever happened. Then Leo Vitale, the man who worked with Stanley Kubrick for a period of years, basically became his second-hand man, devoted his entire life to this master. There's a wonderful documentary about him. Said that he believed... Oh, no, sorry, it was his brother-in-law who he had a conversation with, and he told his brother-in-law that he felt it was his greatest cinematic contribution. To me, it feels pretty full. It feels pretty final cutty. And to be honest, with a lot, especially the ending,
I can't see that changing.
And with, I personally feel, with some of the fades in the orgy, it actually feels like that orgy has been truncated.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. I think the editing is beautifully elliptical and dreamlike, but it actually feels somewhat, I don't know how they shot it, but it feels like a 20-minute long take that has been cut and faded in, which gives it this incredibly transcendental and unnerving quality. But you can see a version where it's like, oh my God, Eyes Wide Shut, and that incredible 20-minute one take through the orgy, and then he decided to tighten that up. But apart from that, and as much as it is 2 hours 30, and it is long, and it is weirdly paced, I don't actually know what is to be cut or trimmed in this movie. I think it's actually, and it sounds stupid, because Rian is every single time I describe a movie as just the perfect length, she says, you're insane. This movie was far too long. But I genuinely feel that every scene of this feels right. And it does feel overall like I
can't think of anything that I cut. I mean, I wanted to get out of the first scene at the party, but that was mainly because I'd already seen the film. I don't think I had that feeling the first time I watched it.
But the party has so many great scenes. A, it has the Hungarian guy, and B, it has Sidney Pollack putting his suspenders over his bare hairy chest and saying, yeah, Bill, sorry, she took a speedball. It's coke and heroin or something. I don't know. Mandy, wake up, Mandy. Mandy, not a great doctor. Not the best doctor.
You're a very lucky girl.
Yeah, that's his summation. The twist should have been that Mandy doesn't die the following day or whatever because of a fake overdose or a conspiracy. Just bad doctoring from Bill 3 days earlier, in that it was the overdose from 3 days before. Okay, let's do some big picture things before we get into it. So Kubrick was circling this story. This original, it's called Traum Novel, and it's by Arthur Schnitzler. And it's basically, he, for a period of years, was struck between, should this be a drama or should this be a sex comedy?
It was funny. how it's a drama that is very funny.
That is very funny. And in the end, it is that great thing of in Kubrick world, it does take 30 years for him to make the absolute, for me, perfect version of this story. But when he wanted to do it as a comedy, it was heavily suggested that he wanted to use Woody Allen and that he wanted to make a Woody Allen sex comedy. And you can, to be honest, I don't think it would be 2 hours 39, but you can envision that late 70s, when I just ended up at this party and there were all these people with masks and he shows up with a huge mask or something and he doesn't fit in. It could be very funny. I'm very, very happy with the masterpiece that we ended up with.
Yeah, you can picture that.
Then he watched The Jerk in 1979 with Steve Martin, and he then composed that maybe I could do it with Steve Martin. Maybe Steve Martin is this era's Woody Allen. Then eventually he moved into this dramatic mode. And then came the idea of using a real-life married couple. For instance, he flirted with the idea of Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger, who were at the time another starlet couple. They were in the movie The Getaway together. I can't remember when they got together and when they divorced. Very acrimonious divorce. Not dissimilar to, of course, who we ended up with, which is a little movie in 1989 called Days of Thunder, where a young up-and-coming Australian actress is hired alongside the superstar of the day, Tom Cruise, to make a racing car drama. And on the set, they fall madly in love and become one of the huge couples of the 90s. Have you ever watched Days of Thunder or Far and Away, Jay?
No, I've never heard of them.
Far and Away is not good. It's the movie
actually, Days of Thunder rings a bell, but I haven't watched it.
Days of Thunder is great. Days of Thunder was Tony Scott and Jerry Bruckheimer, and they were like, we want to do something with Tom Cruise again that's exactly like Top Gun. And they were like, okay, let's do racing cars. They're fast. And I actually like Days of Thunder. I think it has some good elements. But from that, of course, we do get the huge couple of Tom and Nicole. Obviously ended very acrimoniously. Now, it kind of their marriage came. Well, you can't. Let's talk about Scientology. So their marriage was at their height when Tom was allegedly stepping away from Scientology because he was working on a lot more projects and working with a lot more artistic directors, shall we say. This is his era of Rain Man. This is his era of Oliver Stone with Born on the 4th of July. And then this is, of course, his era where he takes 400 days out of his normal schedule, completely postpones Mission Impossible 2, signs an open contract with him and Nicole. Nicole's in another world, because as much as we think of Nicole as one of the biggest stars of all time, and as much as she's been here and there, obviously we're it's the 13th, we're recording this today. Thank God we're only 8 days away from Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which it will be Nicole Kidman's latest film.
I didn't even know that was coming out this month.
Oh, yeah. So now I'm a dad.
Christmas present.
Now I'm a dad, but I'm also the king of Atlantis. I love the cinema, but there is something about having to watch the same trailer repeatedly that does dull the senses of my movie going. But Nicole got the offer for Eyes Wide Shut when she was on the set of Portrait of a Lady, directed by Jane Campion, and she's just done To Die For with Gus Van Sant. She is known for doing sort of experimental fare already. So as much as she is this absolute model-esque, like one of the most beautiful women to be photographed ever, she is an incredible actress. I've always felt as such, and is always doing interesting work with interesting directors. Tom does this. Paul Thomas Anderson comes to him on the set, gives him the script to Magnolia, and then he makes Magnolia, loses for both, and then gets in with Spielberg, makes War of the Worlds and Oh, Minority Report.
Uh,
And Vanilla Sky, and then suddenly we're into the Mission Impossible era, and we're into him working with Christopher McQuarrie, and we're into absolute TC control. Like, it is, for as much as he
yeah.
is not the director of any of these films, I think the last Mission Impossible movie says a film by Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise. That's the closest we've ever gotten to some sort of credit that he is, by all means, one of the major filmmakers, and it's a matter of absolute control.
Yeah.
Sliding Doors, I really don't need Mission Impossible 2 to be any earlier, but I mean, can you argue that this was a bad choice for Tom Cruise's career? 400 days out of his shoot, they signed an open. I'm just being hypothetical. I don't at all. I think it's one of his best performances, and I think it's an experience like no other.
And I don't really think it's affected anything much, really.
No, not in the long run. No, of
I
course
mean,
not.
I mean, looking at it now, he's since made obviously the Mission Impossible films, and is there's a lot of people that always parrot that he's the last leading man in Hollywood, big picture leading man. But
do you think he's gonna do another Mission Impossible? That takes it to 10. No, it doesn't. Takes it to 8, whatever it does. And then he's gonna like make it his mission again, like he did in 1999, to try and get an Oscar again. And he's going to do like a decade of more quote unquote. I'm not saying there's nothing serious about Mission Impossible, but quote unquote more serious roles in more particular dramas. Or do you think he's far too down the rabbit hole when it comes to Control and when it comes to his persona? And
I could see him going a similar route to Clint Eastwood and making films.
Yeah, I guess it is about time he finally just directs a film. For as much as he is in many ways making these films and directing and producing. Yeah. I love Tom Cruise. I mean, me and Katrina did all the Mission Impossible movies, and I love Tom Cruise. I unabashedly do. For those who say he's a bad actor, I just am not there. And for those who point to this as a bad performance,
no, get life.
Because he's working in the exact same mold that everybody else is on the film of that.
Yeah.
They did 100 takes or whatever. Kubrick loves to choose the most bizarre takes. Take, the story of him like absolutely blowing George C. Scott's mind. Repeat on Dr. Strangelove, repeatedly saying more, when he'd just done a play that was like him. I think he was like an alcoholic living in a hovel, and he was like just very somber and like the most reserved. And then, because that's another thing, Kubrick is a huge dark comedian. Like, I'm not one of these people who goes in and says that Full Metal Jacket is the secret dark comedy of our era, just because some of Ali Ermey's insults are like, yeah, it's kind of funny. What's your major malfunction? That's kind of funny.
That's comparatively like saying Whiplash is a comedy.
Yeah.
With a more recent film.
And as much as there are, bits of The Shining that I laugh at a lot more than I do Grown Ups 2, like beyond Doctor Strangelove and beyond even Lolita, I feel is in this mold. Yes, Lolita is kind of funny, but it's not hilarious like Doctor Strangelove is. He's only, for me, made one truly out and out hilarious comedy. And everything else is very darkly funny, but is by no means intentionally hilarious.
Yeah.
So what else is there to talk? Let's do some. I've got some more broad strokes information. This was in a Cruise interview. Kubrick rang and he said he wanted me and Nick in a movie. Nick was shooting Portrait of a Lady, and then Cruise becomes kind of, he doesn't talk about it a lot often, but in these interviews around the film, he is so completely, well, I mean, it was both Tom Cruise and Nicole in their interviews get asked quite abruptly and rudely by the interviewer I saw, actually, how did you learn about the death? And they both break down into tears immediately. Like Nicole is sobbing because it was so incredibly sudden. I mean, he was by no means a young, sprightly man, but to work with somebody so creative and lively for 400 days and then have him die incredibly suddenly, just must have been an incredibly startling experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is where we talk about Tom and Nicole. The thing looming over the film, obviously, is that they obviously divorce within a year.
Yeah.
Within a year. Now,
really, out of this coming in.
it's within a. Well, this is another thing: is that this shoots for 400 days. Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman divorced. What first question? Fandom wire. People also ask, what happened to Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise? Cruise had previously referred to Kidman as a suppressive person. It's been repeatedly stated about how one of the big things that fell apart in their marriage was vice versa. Tom Cruise's refusal to leave Scientology, and vice versa,
because then he doesn't get to go to those crazy mask orgies.
There you go.
Exactly.
Here we go. May attend the red carpet. July. When is okay? So November '96, the couple begin filming Eyes Wide Shut, which would be Kubrick's final film. Kidman said, "We had 2 kids and were living in a trailer on the lot primarily, making spaghetti because Stanley liked to eat with us sometimes." In 2020, she said, "We were working with the greatest filmmaker and learning about our lives and enjoying our lives on set." So then March 1997, Kidman accompanies Cruise to the Oscars, where Billy Crystal does the great joke, "Hey, Tom, if you don't score this goal, you still go home with Nicole." It's great. Then they attend the premiere in 1999, and then March 2000 is the red carpets. Oh, sorry. And then May 2000 is, here we go, February 2001. Cruise filed for divorce from Kidman. So, citing irreconcilable, I can never say irreconcilable differences. Former Scientologist Mike Rinder claimed in 2022 that the church played a role in the couple's breakup by creating a distance between them. The apostate also alleged that the Church of Scientology wiretapped Kidman's phone to monitor her influence on Nicole, which is one of the religion's most prominent members. Obviously, they said that never happened. Now, from a modern day lens, we can read a lot into this. I want to touch on this a little bit when it comes to the sort of, let's be crude and say Reddit of it all. Of like, is this movie Kubrick telling us about Epstein before Epstein ever happened? Is this movie telling us about all the sex orgies and the, what was it, Pizzagate, where everybody alleged Justin Bieber and all that sort of thing? And I think the fact that I just don't think it's that I don't think it's that below the surface. I think the movie very clearly, I don't think it's saying there's somebody walking around with a robe that says JE on it or something like that. But it's more pointing towards, everybody kind of knew that these sorts of cabals were happening and these sorts of pedophilic orgies and that sort of thing. But we never knew who and how and where and when. I don't think that Kubrick was killed by the Illuminati or anything like that.
No, neither.
But I do think, on the other hand, not that Cruise would ever admit it. I think there's a lot about Scientology in here.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not like the whole. For me, it was the note giving and the
Hmm.
take look no further into this matter, and then the following later by the man with the beige coat. Like,
Hmm.
I've watched a few Scientology documentaries, and those are techniques of techniques to suppress anti-Scientology critics. Like, that can't be
Yeah.
gotten away from. Now, whether Cruise was blind to it or whatever, and it's an Elizabeth Moss in The Handmaid's Tale situation when people say, do you not think that your religion has has misogynistic tendencies? And she's like, no, it's all about power and it's about self-worth. Do you think Kubrick was intentionally putting that Scientology because he's such a trickster and such a prankster? Or what do you think, Jay?
It, I wouldn't put it past him, and to be honest, probably yes.
Mm. um,
I could see that being in his mind.
yeah. So final tidbits. Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman signed open-ended contracts, and they agreed to work on this project until Stanley Kubrick released them from it. I was looking into it. Such an interesting thing. Like, the kid, they had to shoot all the scenes with the kid quite early and on a stricter schedule than normal,
Hmm.
because kids grow up. And they knew full well
Yeah.
that this was going to be an incredibly long shooting movie, so they couldn't have the kid grow up.
Hmm.
I never thought about that before.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
Also, this movie
Also
is.
means,
Oh, go on.
wow, they really jumped around with well, I mean, chronologically, like the kid shows up at the start and at the end, and then also a couple scenes before the end.
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh,
Like, also, when it comes to, like, you're hearing that this is a 400-day budget or something. Sorry, a 400-day schedule. It has a lot of scenes that can necessitate that without issue. Very similar to, like, Shining, where they make those hotels sets, and then after that you've kind of got free reign. Like, a lot of
mhm.
beyond the orgy, a lot of these scenes are like, it doesn't surprise me that he took the chance to shoot the Sidney Pollack pool room scene, the best scene in the film, for 2 weeks, because once you've got those two actors who have signed off and you've got just that room. Sidney Pollack did a really interesting thing on one of the documentaries where he says the cheapest part of what you do as a director is, let's have another take. You spent all this money on everything, and you're going to just do 3 takes and be done with it. You spent all this money to get everybody here, and whilst they're here, you do 3 and okay, let's move on. And it's that sort of conversations paired up against, in retaliation almost to the whole Kubrick's a maniac, Kubrick's insane, Kubrick made everybody cry and do 200 shots of everything just to make them insane. I've really altered my opinion on it all, and there is no doubt for me that there was psychological elements of abuse when it comes to the Shelley Duvall of it all, but
Yeah.
and there was ritualistic training of, like, an abundance and a heavy training when it came to the Full Metal Jacket guys. But it's all kind of in the text. It's all
Yeah.
makes, yeah. And I'm not one of these people who idolizes the horrible director. I'm much more a fan of, the Mike Nichols, everybody, when he dies, everybody saying he was the greatest man alive. I'd much rather be a Mike Nichols in this world. But
Hmm.
there is a lot of people who see, particularly Cruise and Kidman and Sidney Pollack and Steven Spielberg, who saw Stanley Kubrick as such a figure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
Before we take our first break, this was the first Stanley Kubrick film to open at #1 in the US. I would have thought that Shining would have taken that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the
Shining was a
what
huge
is
book,
this?
and it's a horror film. But let's not
Mhm.
underestimate the fact that this film was almost entirely sold around the sex.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
people would have been interested in seeing Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
there were heavy rumors at the time that this was the first film that was going to show sort of penetrative sex because like, why else would he hire a married couple? That's why he's hired a married couple, is that they're going to really have
Ah,
sex and he's
yes,
going to film it.
clearly, clearly, but no,
And then
that's not why.
I can only imagine going to this film and then like it opens, beautiful shot of Nicole Kidman disrobing that black dress, and it's so. I mean, obviously, I find Nicole Kidman very attractive. That goes without saying. But I just love the flowing of that. The dress just slowly slinking off, and it's about a 10-second shot, and her movement is
Mhm.
so smooth, and it's just so transfixing. And then we cut to Eyes Wide the title, and you're like, yeah, great, here we go, Stanley. Yeah, oh, it's gonna be yeah naughty. Can't wait for the orgy.
Mhm.
And then like you're an hour and 40 and then Tom Cruise is crying on a bed. and and you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna be a sex scene with this super sexy prostitute. She's got HIV. And, and it's like the whole time he's blue balling's a very crude way to put it, but the whole time Kubrick is like, I'm not gonna let you get off on this. Even the orgy,
Well, yeah,
even
he's
the
not going to let
much
you get
talk,
off on it, and he's not going to let Bill get off on
yeah,
anything. It's just him edging around New York.
even the
So,
much should have been a better title. Um, One final, speaking of the title, obviously Eyes Wide Shut, it's what we see when we dream. There's a very funny clip that was going around Twitter the other day of people at the, like all the stars at the premiere, and there was like Winona Ryder or something, and they kept saying, what does the title mean? And they went to Winona Ryder, was like, I don't know. And then like loads of other celebrities, and then it hard cuts to Val Kilmer, who goes, well, obviously this is about a married couple who are hiding things in their marriage, and they're refusing to see things right in front of them. And I think Dreams will play a lot into that based on Stanley's other work. And I laughed out loud and was like, oh, wow. And then in my research now, I found that Val Kilmer allegedly sent over like tons of unsolicited or audition videotapes to Stanley. He was like, I need to be in this movie.
oh,
Poor Val.
poor Val.
Poor Val. On the
I
same
mean,
level
I
as
mean,
Sean
he
Young.
could have put him in a mask and
You could
had him
have,
stood in
yeah.
the corner in the orgy just watching. Or he could have had him that was the guy being the stool for the
Can you imagine? And then like everyone's like in trivia, movie trivia later in life, they're like, Val Kilmer and Tom Cruise were in 3 films together. Oh, Top Gun Maverick, and what am I missing? What am I missing? And then the guy's like, yep, who got it? And then there's one man in the corner, probably me with a cigarette. He was the stool, and that is why it's shut. That takes us to our first break. We'll be back
Cool.
in a couple of minutes or so. Well, the audience will be back in seconds, but we will be back in about 5 minutes or so. Bye.
Cool.
And don't forget the
Bye.
password. Don't forget the password, Jay.
Wow. You're not supposed to be here.
What about my taxi? We'll break that down in a second. For our audio listeners, I'm now wearing a mask. I worked for a cruise line for a period of 2 years, an unnamed cruise line, and they had a masquerade gala like every other week.
Really?
And the amount of just like the amount of Eyes Wide Shut jokes I would say and Fidelio, and it was like 50-50 of people who would be like, very good, and those who would just act me like as if Fidelio means nothing. We really need to start campaigning to get Fidelio and the Eyes Wide Shut party back into the joking lexicon.
That's true. We should.
Like every time somebody gives a password or a secret password, and I immediately say Fidelio. Like there is no,
Yeah.
it's beyond trivia now. It's like it's just my go-to Fidelio.
Fidelio.
Fidelio. Have you ever been to a masked ball or something like that, Jay?
I have never been to a mass ball ever.
Have you ever been to a Halloween party where the costumes have been so elaborate that you are unrecognizable?
No,
No.
I wish. That would have been cool, but no.
Yeah. What has been your best Halloween costume, Jay? I remember the Halloween we spent together, you went as a super cool, was it anime or was it manga?
It was Attack on Titan character.
Attack on Titan. So both.
To be honest, just Shaggy last year was pretty good.
You're a good Shaggy. Were you part of a mystery? Were you part of a mystery gang?
Yeah.
Good. Was I? No, I wasn't there.
No, it was in America.
Oh, in America. Yeah, of course,
Mm.
America. Halloween. What did I do for Halloween this year? Was I at sea? Can't remember. No, I don't think I was. I think
I don't think I didn't do anything for Halloween this year.
it was only 2 weeks. It was only a month ago. I can't even remember what
Yeah.
happened. Well, that's a good sign for my future.
Yeah.
Jane, we've touched on a lot of things in general, but let's get more into the specifics of the film. My nominations for 10-minute stretch, we can break them down as we go. The opening party, as much as you said you wanted to get away with it, I could stay with Hungarian, and this wonderful man. And then the two just absolute knockout women on Bill's arm. What's nice about doctors is that they're so knowledgeable. And immediately thrusting it, pardon the pun, thrusting us into the dream world of. I mean, Tom Cruise is a handsome enough guy, but like, there isn't a single woman in this film who doesn't want to fuck Tom Cruise.
Yep. Yep. Even the one whose dad just died.
Yes.
And then
I've loved all of his time.
Tom Cruise's clone very comically walks in to the building.
Yes, the wonderful Carl. Jay, do you know who played that role and shot that role, but then they needed to do Kubrick reshoots, but she was already filming another film?
Who?
The wonderful Jennifer Jason Leigh.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean I could see that actually.
She filmed it, did it all, and then Kubrick wanted some reshoots, but she was already locked into Existenz, the David Cronenberg movie. With Jude Law. Yeah, it's Jude Law. Which is pretty good. But I think personally, I like Mary Richardson. I don't know if it's a good performance, like in the sense that I do genuinely think I can stand on the corner and say that Cruise and Pollock and Kidman are genuinely good in this film.
Yeah.
Marie Richardson is interesting in a sense of I think it is actually maybe bad.
Okay, yeah. All right. I mean,
it doesn't not work though.
No, yeah, it fits for me anyway.
I mean, of all the sort of episodes of the night, that's the one I can kind of give or take.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
And I think
I
also the
could
fact
give or
that
take it, but
sorry,
I do like that it's that one that is the first one of the night after he hears her
what he
fantasy.
hears.
Yeah, and then he goes off and immediately this woman's throwing herself at him.
Well, I think in many ways, just from a screenplay point of view, it's realistic from that point on that Nicole Kidman believes and trusts him why he's not coming home. Like he's a doctor who makes house calls to the most rich and famous, not famous, but the most rich. That's where they have all this money because he is dropping money like a goddamn, I don't know what.
Yep.
and he must get that money somehow. And so it doesn't surprise me in any way that when Nicole rings up at, like, even when he's at Domino's house, and he's like, "Yeah, no, they're waiting for some family to get here. I don't know how long it'll be." That's believable to me. It's not like, yeah, if he just went out of that house after the naval officer scene just to catch some air, or just to, I gotta leave, and then he didn't show up until 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Me as Nicole Kidman would be like, all right, I get you're angry, but where were you until 5
Yeah.
a.m.?
Yeah.
Because the party, like we find out from Nick Nightingale, the party doesn't kick off until 2 a.m.
Yep. And then he gets home at 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long was he
Long.
at the party?
How long was he at the party? How long was the taxi cab?
Yeah.
Um. Anyway, um, do we talk about the weed argument now, or do we circle back to the weed argument?
It's up to you.
Well, let's talk about it in context. Let's talk about it. So for me, this is like just an all-timer. When, like, party conversation, I will bring up Nicole Kidman's line deliveries in this scene.
Hmm.
And it amazes me and it's just an all-time clip to show people who have never seen it, and they're immediately aghast by, I mean, what a way to open it as well. She takes the drag, and then, did you happen the other night, perhaps, maybe those two women, maybe fuck them? And he's like, no, no. Um,
No.
do you think it's overblown? Do you think it's over? This is such a stupid question to ask of this film, but do you think it works? Not. Do you think it's over the top? It's over the top to an extreme level.
I think it's fabulous.
I think it kind of
I
lulls you in. It
Yeah.
lulls you into thinking that this is going to be a funny, darkly comedic, like parody almost of an Oscar scene of,
Yeah.
if you years of civilization, if you men only knew, and it's this
Yeah.
sort of
It's also
overblown.
it's also the rough like camera work because the camera is struggling to follow her,
Mm,
like dancing around, well, bobbing up and down out the frame.
it's it's a moment of steadicam and
Hmm.
looseness and sort of improv camera work in a film and a director's career
Hmm.
completely infamous for absolute control and doing 100 takes to get the most perfect gliding
Yep.
shot.
Yep.
And then suddenly he's just doing handheld, and she's laughing and she's bobbing up and she's bobbing down.
Yep.
And it is that
Yep.
sort of, there are multiple moments in this scene where, like, no, you don't know what you're going to get in this film. And I also think it sort of lulls you in with the dark comedy of it. There's,
Yep.
when she's getting a little titty squeezed, did she think about what Miss Dicky looks like? I mean, what an incredible choice. I don't even know what take that was on.
Yep.
But then you're laughing, and you're laughing with her, or you're going, what the fuck is this performance? What the hell is this? She smoked
Hmm.
weed? I thought she'd done crack. And then suddenly the brilliance of Nicole is that she just drops into it and delivers this naval officer monologue with the absolute most painful, I would throw everything away. And then you're suddenly going, oh, what? The kid as
And
well? You're going to throw away the
Tom
kid?
Cruise is just
And
Can I mention the lighting in the scene as well?
no, you haven't yet.
Because it kind of sets up the lighting for the rest of the film.
Mm,
Because he has the complementary colors of blue and yellow,
mm,
right? And for this first bit, it's like the entire room's yellow, and then the outer bit, which she kind of goes into, is blue.
yeah.
And then it swaps round later on, when he comes back and starts crying, I'm pretty sure.
And
And
also
it's
that
just interesting.
blue the blue is obviously the color that Kubrick uses for those incredible flashbacks with the naval officer.
Yep.
That, of course,
Yep.
were filmed for 6 days without Tom Cruise being allowed to know anything about it.
Yeah.
So, obviously, when it comes to nudity, this is quite a what's the word? Not daring, fearless performance, or whatever adjective you want to attribute it. So, the way that Kubrick and Nicole worked were that they did work together. Kubrick was very open that, like, I want a lot of nudity. I want, especially in the naval scene, I want each flashback to get steadily more sexual. I want this to be incredibly graphic. But I will show you the final cut, and there will be nothing in that final cut that you don't single-handedly approve. And Nicole's verified this story multiple times over. So it was, again, just very refreshing to just, I mean, this should be the sort of standard no matter what. This sort of transparency and this sort of coordination. But definitely. It's very refreshing that this film doesn't have some sort of looming, 2023. Well, actually, in that, because as much the way that Shining has the Shelley Duvall business over it, for as much as it took 400 days and everybody, missed out on a year of their careers or whatever, there isn't really an interview where anybody's having a bad time, apart from Harvey Keitel, who shot for like a month as Ziegler and then got fired, basically. And there was this, again, conflating stories. The rumor at the time was that there was a scene which involved him actually ejaculating near Nicole Kidman, which I don't even understand how that rumor, I understand it as a rumor, but in the actual seeing the film and reading the script, there's nothing in there. They're barely in any scenes together. So I don't know how. I think that's just a typical salacious rumor. The story that I've heard that makes a lot more sense is that on like one of the 80th takes, he just snapped and said, "Fuck it, I'm not doing this. I'm done." But we've seen this a million times over. We saw it with Robert Downey Jr., who despised his experience on Zodiac. Like, there are certain actors and directors, there are certain actors who go in for the whole 100 takes business, and there's those who just don't.
Yeah.
Which is fair. I don't think I know what I'd be.
Yeah.
If it was a Kubrick or a Fincher, and I knew at this stage, like, fine, I am in service of a master. But if I was in, like, I don't know.
To be honest, if you'd asked me like a couple months ago, I would definitely not have been someone who would have liked doing 100 takes. But the current job I have, where I do like a show every 6 minutes over and over, I actually quite like it.
Yeah.
So
Nicole talked about it being freeing. Like, there's no pressure to get it on this next take.
Yeah.
Like, there was no pressure at all. There was no. Yeah, I can imagine it's a similar sort of thing. If, like, you have a shitty audience or whatever for that 6 minutes, next 6 minutes, you could absolutely scare them to death, make them laugh till they split.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's like, oh, this one's wrong. Well, the next one could be better.
Yeah. Then I've got Rainbow Fashions. Let's talk about that bizarrity. You want a tuxedo, a cloak with a hood, and a mask.
The scene horrified Olivia. It was great.
What do you think is going on?
I have no idea.
But in the sense of
where did the original owner go? Did he actually move away? Is that actually his daughter? Or is he just...
Yeah.
I mean, I think it is his daughter.
I think it is his daughter.
He's just... Is he pretending to be mad at the two guys?
I think it's that dream logic, which does eventually kind of annoy me. Because as much as I love Lynch and as much as I love Eyes Wide Shut, as much as I love a lot of dream logic movies, there is a certain point when those movies are bad, which this one isn't, where I kind of get annoyed. And I'm like, all right, okay, wonderful. You can, no matter what criticism I have of the film be shit, you can just say, well, it was all a dream. And and there is that thing of, was the plan always for those businessmen to be caught? Is that part of their sexual game? But then that doesn't make sense, because then it's complete happenstance that Bill walked in. But then if it's a dream, then then who knows? But very funny, very dark. Was she shocked by anything else, or was she just shocked by this? And what was she shocked by, beyond obviously the child pedophilia?
I think it was mainly the child pedophilia, and then also the dads later on, when he's like, she's your daughter. Yeah.
Last night you said you were going to call the police.
We came to a different arrangement.
Yeah. The party itself, such an unnerving. Is it right? Is it not sexual enough? I know that sounds stupid, but like, obviously he was struggling with the MPAA. He watched Fatal Attraction, Basic Instinct, and Showgirls in research to find out how much he could show and still get an R rating. Such incredible research, my man Stanley.
Yeah.
I'm going to research. What are you doing? His wife, Christy Kubrick's down there. What are you watching? I'm researching Basic Instinct again.
I just want to see how far I can push it.
It's a really great film, Christine. And then we, because it is in many ways, I'm wondering, do you go in and be like, hi, yeah, I'm going to join in tonight? Because, or are they like the guy that we see fucking the woman over the desk? Is he another hired person? Like, we never really see the rooms of debauchery. We see everything is quite chaste. It's all people either watching.
Yeah.
And these people may be prostitutes or actors or sex workers or whatever in the middle. And everybody's kind of just like watching. And then it's like, oh yeah, I might see what, yeah, I'll have a look at the other room.
Well, mine and Olivia's question was, how did they decide which guy would get on all fours and have the people fucking on top of them?
I mean, I've
like,
always
is that randomly decided, or
my entire life, ever since I've watched this from a very young child and understood the ins and outs. What about what those two 69 people doing? Can you imagine doing any form of oral sex with this bloody thing on? Never mind something bigger.
Well, because the mouth's covered as well.
Yeah, the mouth's covered. I mean, I'll take this off now. It gets far too hot. Imagine I had to wear these all night. They were absolutely awful. And then, oh no, it's stuck. And then I was thinking the other day, like, if you're down there in any way, shape, or form, look at the spikes on this. I know he's not literally wearing this mask, but like, that is just not ideal for anybody involved.
No, it's not.
I don't want to kink shame. Maybe you have a mask. Maybe you have a mask in your foo-foo kink. Maybe that's what you like. I'm not going to judge anybody, but I don't really think it's logistical.
No.
And then there's just that lovely other room where they're playing Strangers in the Night, and the most like cringy cliche version, like basic band version of da, 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 and there's just the couple dancing.
One couple fully dressed, one person in the couple fully dressed,
one
person naked, because it's a strange ritualistic thing.
Maybe that's just what he enjoys.
Maybe.
Could we not get one dong? I mean, I'm straight. I don't care. But like, just get a couple of dogs in there, Got all these boobs. More than boobs. Lots of natural au natural. Let's talk about Jesus. Do you know, Jay, who voices the woman who helps
I
Tom?
I do. I do. It's Kate Blanchett.
The wonderful Kate Blanchett.
Yes.
And I can hear her so it's wonderful.
Yeah.
How does that come up? Because so talented Mr. Ripley's this year, but what has she done? Like,
Apparently, according to Wikipedia, it came out in 2019.
mm.
The I'm gonna click on where it comes from. So it's a
See,
Voltrot article.
she's already been in the first Elizabeth movie and
Mm.
been nominated. Oh no, she wasn't nominated for Best Actress. Oh no, she was. Wait a minute. Yes, she was nominated for Best Actress for Elizabeth in 1998, and then she's got this and Talented Mr. Ripley. So it's like the previous Oscar winner of, the previous Oscar nominee of the previous year is just like, yeah, I'll come in and do 30 seconds. But again, I guess that's Kubrick's power. I'm not saying they're
Um,
filmmakers on the same. Oh, go on, sorry.
so so it was after Kubrick died.
Yeah.
Um, and Tom and Nicole came up with the idea of Kate because she was in England at the time.
Hmm.
So just came over and recorded the lines.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, that's it.
It's kind of
Because
wonderful.
Stanley died before the dubbing was done, so they were worried about who they'd get to dub
Hmm.
over.
This sort of
Yeah,
like people coming in for 30 seconds only reminds me of one living filmmaker.
Nolan.
Oh, yeah. Well, oh, yeah. No, Oppenheimer. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
was thinking Wes Anderson. Like
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
watching
yeah,
these past five Wes Anderson movies and the people who come in for like 30 seconds,
yeah.
I've never seen, like, for somebody who either people really do love or hate, this isn't like a Kubrick figure where everyone is, even in his life, is saying, yeah, he's probably the greatest filmmaker.
Hmm.
Like, I do think Wes Anderson is one of our finest crafts and technicians and filmmakers, but that is not a commonly held opinion. A lot of people
No, yeah,
hate him and find him very twee and annoying.
yeah,
But we're still getting people filmmaking, actors wise, who always want to be in there.
yeah. Which is nice.
It is nice. Um, any other 10-minute stretches? I mean, oh, wait a minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. The greatest scene of all time. Okay, Bill, let's cut the bullshit. All right. You've been way out of your depth for the last 24 hours. You want to know what kind of charade? I'll tell you what kind. That whole play acted, take me, phony sacrifice you've been jerking off with had nothing to do with her real death. The truth is, nothing to happen to her that you after you left that party that hadn't happened before. She got her brains fucked out. Period. There was no foul play regarding her death. She OD'd. She was alone in her room. Her door was locked from the inside. The police are happy. End of story. Come on, Bill. You said it yourself to Mandy, that woman with the big tits who OD'd in my bathroom. What an all-time scene.
Yeah, it's so satisfying in a bad way. Just especially because like when he goes to the mass place, like my head was in the place of like, okay, well, there's got to be someone here that knows him, especially if his
Mm.
mask's coming off, and it's gonna come up.
Do you
Um,
think it is the person on the balcony who first looks at him?
Most likely,
Mm. And
but
then,
I don't know how you'd recognize Bill that immediately
mm,
because the because they only just took off his jacket, so that reason wouldn't have like passed through yet. So
mm.
I don't know.
I, I, I mean, he comes late. He's coming to
Mhm.
taxi, but they don't know that yet, like you say.
Would you like to come inside with me?
What a line.
What a line.
Um,
Come inside with you.
many. Let me think about that. Again, I can just imagine Woody Allen. You know, like I can imagine some organization of those words would be quite nice. Yes, I would enjoy that. It's like, can you even imagine the long living legacy of a or even a late 70s Steve Martin? You know what I'd love to see?
Mhm.
Serious Steve Martin in the 90s and have it be a slightly older man.
Mm. Yeah.
Like, I love Father of the Bride. I'm not saying that that's not a comedy. It obviously is. But like, there's a wonderful movie, The Spanish Prisoner, written by David Mamet. And he's just playing a straight-laced billionaire, like just a villain, just a billionaire. Like, he's got the jobs. He could definitely do it. I think it'd be a lot weirder from a
Mm.
view of, I don't know what the sex would look like. I don't know. Like, there is that sort of thing of like the hot young couple being in this movie that makes it satisfying in a way.
Yeah.
But Sidney Pollock is just so wonderful. I love Sidney Pollock. I love his movies. And then like
Mhm.
as and when he does show up in things, when he's the agent in Tootsie, it's great. When he's in Michael Clayton, he's wonderful. He used to be an actor, then he became a director. He's in a Twilight Zone episode actually called The Trouble with Templeton,
Mhm.
and he's a wonderful actor and just so natural. And again, wonderful pool table usage. I remember Clockwork
Mhm.
Orange. My favorite part of Clockwork Orange remains the rolling of that ball so beautifully into the hole.
Mhm.
Oh, you haven't watched Clockwork Orange yet? You've got
No,
a
so
beautiful,
I'll try. Yep.
beautiful ball rolling to look forward to. Um,
Okay.
Best single minute whilst we're here. Just a little note: getting ready for the party at the beginning, very realistic, and like from the iconoclastic opening and
Mhm.
Nicole being so statuesque and beautiful and idolized. And then the next time we see her, she's on the bathroom. She's got her glasses on. Not that glasses make a person ugly in a she's the bad sort of way, but like she's got her glasses on. Her hair's been all done, but
Yeah.
she's nervous about it, and she's just wiping her vagina. Like she's on the toilet, and she's just wiping up, and she puts the thing away, and he's trying to find his wallet and that sort of thing. And I find it very interestingly realistic in a way that a lot of the other films, the rest of the film isn't.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I love Bill watching Alice with their child Helena doing the maths and the can of beer, and she's
Yeah.
doing that little
Yep. That's really good.
thing with her lip.
I'm always, it's slightly more than a minute, but it's more like 4 minutes. I love any appearance of Alan Cumming in anything.
It's so wonderful. Um,
It is
how many
the
times?
sheer amount of eye fucking as well that he
Oh
can
yeah,
do.
the lolling of his mouth when he's talking about you look pretty scared. And I
Yeah.
mean, how many times on a scale of like how many times in our life together, Jay, have I said to you the phrase they were big guys? I'm
Oh,
like
quite a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
big. Um, so incredibly over the top. So all of his auditions were in American, obviously. And then he came onto the
Hmm.
set, and obviously Alan Cumming is this gregarious Scottish person, and he said, "Good morning, Stanley, and lovely to meet you." And he was like, "You're not American," and he goes, "No, I'm not." And in a very, in his wonderful way, and he was like, "Okay, okay," and you could see Kubrick's mannerism of going, "Oh no, oh no." But
Yeah.
again, that sort of, I'm not saying it's a bad American accent, but that sort of over the top. Obviously, he's playing it very camp and trying to seduce Tom Cruise, Bill Harford,
Yep.
and playing it over the top. It's just such a wonderful scene, and so reluctant he is to that. What's the first thing Bill asked him? Something about his address or something. Oh no, sorry. He says, did anything peculiar happen here last night? Does he, or
Yeah.
am I? Yeah. And then he's like, no. As a matter of, and then he's like, well, as a matter of fact, there was something peculiar. And then he talks about the most peculiar thing that could possibly happen: a man slipping him
Yeah.
a note saying, "Please help me."
Yeah.
Pretty
And then they
peculiar.
snatched it up.
Yeah.
And it's like,
And then they took him away. I was like, yeah, that's pretty peculiar, Alan.
I felt like I was watching it. It reminded me of was it what's his name? Oh God, one sec.
Go on, what film?
Uh, it's Mulholland Drive, but
Oh, um, oh, I don't know who you're trying to. I
it
don't know who.
was. I mean, he looks very a bit similar to
Oh, not the cowboy. Not.
no, 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 no. It's the Winky scene.
Oh, does David does Matt? No,
No. Patrick Fischler.
Patrick Fischler.
Yeah,
And
because
what's
my
his name
mind
in Mad Men?
went.
Oh God. Uh, Scroll down. What's his name in Mad Men? It's gonna really drive me mad. Give me the initials.
Uh, Wait.
Because Don has
Oh
sex with
yeah,
his
because he's in Mad Men as well.
Don has sex with his wife. He's the comedian who makes the fat joke about the client's wife,
Yeah, yeah, he's a prick.
and then Don starts sleeping with his wife, cum agent.
Oh God, this is when he was in so much TV. Wait, Mad Men.
Who's a wonderful photographer on Veep.
Yeah, uh, Ken on Veep. Ah, okay, you ready?
Yeah.
JB.
JB. JB. Jimmy. It's not Burns. Jimmy B. Jimmy. Oh, can I have a second letter, please?
A.
Jimmy Ba. Jimmy Balla Balla. Can I have a third letter, please?
R.
Jimmy Jimmy Barant. It's not Jimmy Baranti. That's Jimmy Duranti. Jimmy Barrett.
Yes, there you go.
Jimmy Barrett. Because she is called. I'm not going to get you seriously. Jimmy Barrett. Oh, what a great series.
Yeah.
Doesn't it annoy you? Doesn't it make you sick? The way he is with my wife, your husband with my wife. Oh, it's great. Thomas Weirdlow's specific favourite parts of the film, the opening shot that we talked about, the wonderful Hungarian man. I think that's my drink. Oh, I'm absolutely certain of it. And then just drinking it. I don't know if that move is ever going to work. Like,
no. Olivia's reaction was, I would immediately leave if anyone ever did that. That is disgusting. So,
yeah. Hard cut to everybody's enjoying the party, and then hard cut to Sidney Pollack with a naked, unconscious woman putting his braces over his hairy chest. Wonderful stuff.
Yep.
Bill's reactions during the whole weed scene and his floppy little hair, and he's like, the blue tint on the naval flashbacks. The Tom Cruise clap. Now, I wrote this. I wanted this specifically in a play that. And I wrote it specifically into a play, and it was like, and the character was ironically called Bill. And it was like, Bill claps his hands together incredibly firmly. And I was trying to describe it, and they were like, what does this mean? What is this? And I was like, eyes wide shut. And they were like, no, sorry, what? It's like, when Tom Cruise is walking down the sidewalk and he claps his hands. I don't love the gay slurs, but there are a couple that feel like really first draft. What team is this switch hitter playing for? And go back to San Francisco where you belong. Where it's like, this is like the most basic, uncreative gay slurs.
Yeah.
The rest of Alice's night, she's smoking, watching soap operas, drinking milk, and eating Oreos. She's like, yeah, I really shouldn't have told him about my sexual fantasy to have sex with a naval officer. All of the Christmas lights.
Yep.
It's like kind of boring to say that this is like a Christmas classic now. I also have no interest. I've said it about Die Hard. I've said it about this. I have no interest in the boring conversation of, is this a Christmas movie? Yes, it's set at Christmas. He says Merry Christmas.
Yep.
He says to the little boy, are you looking forward to Christmas? All the Christmas lights. It just bores me. They're Christmas shopping at the end.
Literally, the last scene, you can hear Christmas music.
The whole Die Hard thing is absolutely bullshit. That's another podcast entirely. But like, it's just so annoying and uninteresting. What have I got here? Bill's love of beer. Like, he's got the beer in the glass at home, the beer in the jazz bar. Even in like a cool jazz bar in the middle of the night, he's like, yeah, I'll have a beer, like a pint of beer. Interesting. Yep. I started to lose a lot of my hair. Why can't you help me? I love the elderly man at the house who gives him the letter, who looks incredibly ominous.
Yeah.
The first time the beige coat man turns the corner and we hear well, not for the first time, we hear that piano strike an awful lot.
Yeah.
I
We
remember
see we
my
see Uncle Fester. Oh yeah.
I remember my drama teacher, Phil Stokes. I don't know if I can. Well, yeah, he was wonderful. And the first time we talked about Eyes Wide Shut, and he was like, I could have probably done with a few less reprises of that bloody piano music. And every single time, the minute he turns the corner and all of the masked people are staring at him, and you hear that bang, bang, and you're like, wow.
Yep.
And then as it goes on, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Bomb, bomb. I love, again, a couple of more moments from the wonderful speech with Sidney Pollack. That prick piano player, Nick, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
He's probably, banging Mrs. Nick. Cut to Alice the morning after, and there's the interview where this interviewer says to her, her being the Kidman, it cuts to you and you look like you've been crying for hours. How did you achieve that? I went and cried for hours. We didn't have to worry about time. And like when you think about it, it's like, yeah, okay, right, yeah. She has an awfully emotional day, and then we have this incredibly beautiful, iconic cut and shot. Kind of no complaints. And then that cut to Bill, where he sat like a naughty schoolboy in his little jumper and his head down, and he's like, and you're like, okay,
yeah, similar to how he sits in the car, where you can only see his face.
Yeah, and you're like, I'm so sorry. I know you said that you imagined that you'd like to have an affair, and that I went in, nearly had sex with a prostitute, and that I went to a full-blown Epstein orgy. Oh, I'm sorry. And it's like, yeah, they're definitely. I don't need to see an extended scene. I think the cut to the morning after is a lot better. But I would love to see the moment where Alice is like, where Bill attempts to defend, because that
just even him describing the fucking orgy would be great. Yeah, so it walks in and they were carrying this weird pendulum looking incense device, and then the women were kissing each other.
Yeah. It was really great. Sorry,
great.
what? That bit was fun. And then there was this woman who came up to me and was like, you got to get out of here. And I was like, nah. Did you? She sounded a lot. Yeah, she sounded a lot. Did you ever watch The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? And then I don't know if it's a favorite part, but just Alice is wearing a similar beige coat to the man stalking Bill. Like, I don't think that means anything, but I just spotted it.
Maybe it is Alice.
Oh, but she shaved her head.
Oh my god!
Do you have any other small little those tiny little favorite parts from years of watching this movie?
Let me have a look real quick. No, not really.
I have also.
I've already
No, that's in
mentioned
best line. That's in the best line.
his head looking like it's floating in the car, and then all the transitions into the trees and stuff. They're very nice.
It's very nice. Right, we're going to take our second and final break, and then we'll be back to conclude this discussion of Eyes Wide Shut. No. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, the full stop. And we come to we don't come to an end just yet. We come to our final part of recording. Best building or set. Now, you alluded to it in a very funny parentheses.
Yes.
So Kubrick has a huge fear of flying, and the last time he was in America was for the premiere of 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was a contractual obligation. Ever since then, he has been very, very happy in England, to the extent that his Vietnam War film was filmed in Sheffield. Now, I do think
I didn't know it was shot in Sheffield.
Yeah. I do think the egregious warscape of Vietnam being without any forest or greenery is the most egregious example.
Yes.
Do you think the version of New York that we get in this film is has an effect on the film, good or bad?
Good.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel real.
I think the biggest problem with this film, no, but I think when it comes to the set, I think the biggest problem with this film is those very few here and there establishing shots that are real New York.
Yeah.
I don't get why they're in there, second unit, whatever. They do a pretty good job of matching them. Like there's one before the second day when he, or whatever it is, when he goes back to the Rainbow fashion store. And there's one just before that. And they do a very good job of matching it.
Mm-hmm.
But in this New York, I'm not used to seeing busy streets with people. And it feels, that gives me a jolt a lot more than the New York of the soundstage that we see the chase the following scene in.
Yeah. No, yeah. No, I completely agree.
I also love, of course, the bar where Nick plays, the sort of Savannah Lounge, I think it's called, or something like that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Highclere Castle. So Highclere Castle was used for the orgy, which was also the part of the Rothschilds mansion. Now, did you know, Jay, these are some other things that have shot at Highclere Castle. A 1979 episode of Antiques Roadshow. Downton Abbey.
Right.
Mary Berry's Country House Secrets. and an episode of This Morning with Eamon Holmes and Ruth Langsford.
Wow, and they're all part of the orgy cult.
And here we have a note, comments on the Wikipedia page for Highclere Castle. 4 Eyes Wide Shut. Warner Brothers cinema production. Interiors at Highclere were used for the masked ball scene, which portrayed about 20 people having graphic sex. And then immediately followed, well, not immediately, but like very closely followed by TV documentary series themed around food in British manor houses, presented by Mary Berry. I just found that very funny.
That was pretty funny.
Are there any? You talked about the blue and the orange of the flat. Is the actual apartment a favorite set of yours, or is there a obviously grander, more system?
I quite like it's Ziegler's flat in the end, the pool table room. Like I really like that with the table with all the different alcohols.
I've talked about this with Will before, of like that creeps into the territory of where best building or set becomes what room / apartment / house we'd like to own.
Yeah.
And I would very much like to own Ziegler's mansion.
Yes.
Soundtrack corner. A music that was used in the trailers a lot and is used twice during the film, in the opening and the end, and I think quite awkwardly actually in the middle, is Waltz number 2, the down, dum, bum, ba, 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 ba. And it sort of puts you, I don't know what mind frame it really puts you in, of I guess a masked ball, I guess a nice big grand waltz at a ball. The other piece of music that was used in the trailers a lot and came via Nicole Kidman, because it was,
I think I know this one.
Go on.
Is it Baby Did Bad
thing? The wonderful Chris Isaak, yes. And that, because that was the music allegedly that Nicole was using to listen to in order to get herself more free and ready for some of the nude scenes. And he liked her choice of music, of Chris Isaak, star of Silence of the Lambs. And they're on the elevator. Okay, go, go, go. So, okay. And more importantly, I'm not kidding. He's got a very small, weird, like he's barely in Silence of the Lambs. He's like, they're on the roof. Go, go, go.
That is Agent Chester Desmond you're talking about.
Just a desert. That was my next port of call. And yeah, there we go. And then of course that what I've referred to here as that fucking piano music, which we first hear at 1 hour 24 minutes with another about almost it's 1 hour and 24 minutes, which is the exact midpoint of the film. Is the first time we hear that. And you're like,
Yep.
oh,
And then you hear it for the next hour.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I think my favorite bit of music is the one that plays when he first gets there when they're doing the ritual.
Oh,
Yeah, the kind of
the
I quite like that.
the wonderful Jocelyn Pook, who was an experimental musician, and Stanley Kubrick allegedly said to her, "Make some sexy music," and that's what we got.
That's what we got.
Right.
I mean, it reminds me of I think it's is it Ramstein in Lost Highway
Yeah, yeah.
in a way. The kind
Imagine a
of
world. Imagine a world where you're not wonderfully contented and happy with Olivia. You meet just a knockout woman. She's sensational. She says, "Come to my apartment," and you're like, "Wow, this is a done deal." She's like, "I'm going to put some music on." Okay, wonderful. Yeah, and she puts on like 1 hour. She walks straight past her record player, which has a beautiful selection of like I don't know Dusty Springfield or like sexy music, and she goes straight to YouTube. 10 hours of Jocelyn Pook Eyes Wide Shut music, and then she's getting naked, but she's then stood there for 10 minutes because she can't figure out her computer to the TV mirroring. She gets really stuck, and then she spells Pook wrong.
I don't know. I don't know. I probably find it really funny
I would, yeah, me too. And
in an absurd way. Yeah.
And it'd be like, what's funny? It was like, oh, it's just not a joke.
Oh,
Okay. Oh, do you want to do best line or what's the change?
we'll do what's the change first?
What's the change? Bill's doctrine with Mandy that we discussed. The abrupt fade out from the mirror sex of Baby Did a Bad Thing into the straight cut once again into dum bum 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 and the waltz again. I find kind of abrupt. It doesn't really work for me, but that's quite picnicky. So some of Tom's weed acting again, mostly it works for me, but some of it, what are you talking about? It kind of rang a little bit true. Here he's talking about, I have a wife and 4 boys in Seattle. You got to go where the work is. A, is there no jazz bars in Seattle? And B, if he only gets the address 2 hours before, does he get a previous thing that says it's going to be in New York? Because if he's in Seattle, also this goes down to my big thing. Can they not get someone who has like pretty good piano skills to play at the incredibly seedy orgy filled with Epstein and all the richest people in the world? Does the sex orgy need a live pianist also? Like, who's the guy who's like, you know what, I'm really into live organ?
Also, do we think that Nick got shot in an alley like 5 seconds after? Yes.
I've got a few of those later. Like there are watches where I watch this and go, oh wait, this is all just Bill overindulging himself and like going to the worst extremes, and Victor's telling the complete truth of like, yeah, so he had a bruise on his face. That's there are watches where I go, yeah, I believe this. I think Bill's completely overreacted. Mandy probably did die of an OD, and Nick probably did get away with it. Sorry, get put on a trip back to Seattle to bag Mrs. Nick. And then there are watches where I go, oh no, everybody's been dealt with.
Yeah.
But in that version, Lucky Taxi Driver, and also in that version, I find a lot of holes. because why are they letting Bill off?
Yeah, true.
If there is a world where Nick is killed and where they kill Mandy, why are they not killing Bill?
Yep.
It's not like, sure, he's an upper class doctor, but it's not like he's, I don't know,
Yeah.
Rockefeller or something.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Why not make him OD or whatever?
Yep.
And then this leads to another line from the Victor scene. I recommended that little cocksucker. Why is Victor the guy that's like, hey guys, I know a great pianist? Why is Victor Ziegler the guy who they get a pianist from?
Yeah. Don't worry, guys. For the orgy later, I've got a great pianist.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing like, yeah, my cousin plays the keys. It's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't enjoy the image of the mask on the pillow before Bill arrives. We
Yes.
could
Why? Why?
bizarre editing choice
It's a
completely
strange
removes
choice.
all the tension. And I mean, you can do the Hitchcock, a bomb under the table is more interesting than a bomb going off. But I don't think that's the case here. I think Tom crying, slowly walking through the rooms, feeling such shame, seeing his daughter, and then he walks in, and then we get a, Danny zoom into the face, scream, wah, wah, wah. Well, not that, it would probably be the piano music again, let's be honest. And snap zoom to the mask, snap zoom to maybe a snap zoom would, I don't know, but
Yeah.
bad choice.
Very, very strange.
Whilst we're talking masks, what's happening there? So in the original novel, it's Alice who's found the mask, and he dropped it out of the bag accidentally, and Alice just places it there, being like, "Oh, your mask." But I've always thought it was maybe the guys who planted it as just one final
Yeah.
reminder. Is that
Yeah.
what do you? Yeah.
That's how I read it.
Any other changes, Jay?
Um, I don't think so.
Pretty good. Pretty good
Yeah.
film.
It's pretty tight.
Um, best little lines. That's not what we call it. Best lines. I mean, I've talked about when she's having a little diddy squeeze. Do you think she ever has fantasies about what handsome Dr. Bill's dicky might look like? I also enjoy in the same scene, why don't you just relax? The part is making you aggressive. It's wonderful stuff. And then again, something we haven't even talked about, Alice's second monologue about a sexual fantasy.
Yeah.
Where you go through the whole night and he's not come to terms or whatever. He's gone through an arc and he gets home and he's like, "Oh, I love my wife. She was just a little bit weedy. Weedy's not what people say. She was just a little bit high." And then he's like, she's giggling, and then she's like, "There were all these other men, hundreds of them, and everyone was fucking. And then I was fucking other men, so many I don't know how many I was with. And I knew you could see me in the arms of all these men, just kissing and just fucking all of these men." Alice Harford, what a woman. Jay, I'm going to feed you up for the final line of this film. Forever, forever. Let's not use that word. It frightens me. But I do love you. And there's something very important that we need to do as soon as possible.
What's that?
Fuck. Cut to black. Imagine that being the final moment of your illustrious career.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a good ending.
Did you watch Barbie?
I did.
I literally thought the gynecologist line, I don't know if it was, and I don't think it is, felt like an Eyes Wide Shut reference.
Oh my God.
It felt
Maybe.
like I'm going to end this film on the most outrageous cut to black line. I want to see my gynecologist. My gynecologist. Cut to black. And I just saw Noah Baumbach there with Greta just going like, what if it was like a reference to Eyes Wide Shut?
Yeah.
Best specific Halloween costume. This hasn't been something that we've done with you yet. And I'm going to go for Victor with just his suspenders. I think that would be a really funny Halloween costume.
Yep.
Any other lines? We've touched on it all, kind of. Any other lines from you?
Nick's line, Well, when Bill says, you know what they say, once a doctor, always a doctor. Yes, or in my case, never a doctor, never a doctor.
They're seemingly friends, but also have only met for the first. Have never met in their lives. It's very off kilter,
Yep.
but no less wonderful. A few fun facts to prepare for their roles. Stanley Kubrick had joined psychoanalysis sessions with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, where he had them confess to their fears about relations and their real life marriage. According to Kidman, it was brutally honest and blurred the line between themselves and their fictional characters. Both of them vowed to never reveal what they discussed during these sessions.
Right.
What a guy. I'm just going to throw this in. What's this week scheduling? It's just like in an apartment, Stanley. Is this the apartment scene? Oh, no. We're going to do deep psychoanalysis where I'm going to get you.
We're gonna get a bit psychosexual with this couple.
Nicole Kidman admitted that her explicit scenes with the naval officer, played by male model Gary Gober, were difficult. We filmed them over 3 days and we shot a lot of stuff. I don't think I would do what I did there for another director. Stanley wanted it to be almost pornographic, but he did not exploit me. I did it because I thought it was important for the film. The film deals with sex and sexual obsession, and the scenes could not have been of me in a bra and panties pretending to have sex with somebody. That is hopefully what it was, Nicole. We've seen the film now. That is hopefully what it was. It did have a graphic quality to it. It was difficult going home to my husband after those scenes, but we both decided we were basically going to get lost in this world for a year and a half. And that's what we did. It is a great memory for us. And at times it was almost a dreamlike state. I don't know if I could write it as literally Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, and Stanley Kubrick, but I'd love to write a play or something, or a film about this sort of situation. A real life married couple playing a real life married couple. I mean, that's been done before. I'm not stupid. It would be good. So again, I don't really go in for the Illuminati killed Stanley Kubrick or anything like that. But so the film's consultant when it comes to what was his term? The New York Post reporter Larry Salona, who was the press consultant for the film, who helped with all the newspaper stuff, was a real life New York Post reporter and was the credited writer for the New York Post article about Epstein accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell's arrest on sex trafficking charges in 2020. And
oh my God.
He was the press consultant on this and is, as a nice Easter egg, the name that is credited to the Mandy overdoses tagline. Tagline.
I liked that it was actually written like it was an actual article.
Oh, come on. Do you think Stanley would have ever allowed Laura Nixon?
Yeah.
It goes beyond that, Jay. He had multiple different...
Oh,
go on.
No, the newspaper. When he sits down in the bar and it says on the front of the newspaper, lucky to be alive.
Yes. Indeed, brilliant stuff. He had different newspapers shot for the Italian release, for the Spanish release, I think the German release. He's the guy. He's the main guy. He's the guy. The tagline for the film was simply Cruise, Kidman, Kubrick. And it can't be underestimated to what extent that is enough to take a film in 1999 to #1 at the box office. Obviously, it is helped, is the wrong word, by the mysterious nature of the film, tied in with the mysterious nature that obviously Kubrick is dead. And so it's like, this is his last, pardon me, this is his last film, and this will be his last ever film.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Tom's big question. Would a lot of these would Bill have done this? Would Bill have had the threesome if Victor didn't grab him? I mean, he does say to be continued.
No.
I don't think he would. But he likes the idea of, I mean, everybody likes interest. I've never cheated myself. I haven't, but there's nothing, it's very nice to have somebody interested in you. This is where I reveal, Jay, that this is a secret psychoanalysis for me and you.
Oh my
Did you
God.
notice the gift that Alice and Helena were wrapping for Bill for Christmas?
No, what was it again? What
A
was it?
Van Gogh jigsaw. In what world is Bill Hartford like, thank you so much, girls. Thank you so much for this Van Gogh jigsaw.
I mean, maybe that's just the side we never see.
Maybe that's his thing. And he's
Yeah.
like trying to figure out the puzzle. Or maybe it was a book. It looked like a jigsaw. Maybe it was a book, but it looked like a jigsaw. Um, how much money does Bill drop over this night? He's just like,
So, a lot.
it's an obscene amount.
Yeah.
The Domino said, I can't remember. Yeah. And then we've touched on this already. Was Victor telling the truth about this? And was Victor, about the OD girl or anything like that? And then I have, is this Kubrick's best ending? And I know that you've only seen two, but like, king of good endings, like this, Shining, Clockwork Orange is incredible. Barry Lyndon has a good ending. Strangelove has an iconic ending. Just there's the old, I can't remember who said it, but there's the adage about how a film only needs to have a good beginning, a good ending, and like 3 good scenes in between. And if you end a film well, like you're in for like that is half the not half, but that helps a lot when it comes to having a film have a lasting memory. Jay, any final thoughts on Eyes Wide Shut?
No, it's just one of my favorite films.
It's a wonderful film. It's one of my favorite films too. We'll be back in the new year to discuss more. And we'll see if we can fit in another Kubrick in there. What's your next Kubrick? What do you want to watch next, Jay? You said A Clockwork Orange?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We'll do more Twilight Zone and we'll do Clockwork Orange in the new year.
Oh yeah.
There we go. Okay. Merry Christmas, Jay.
Merry Christmas.
Don't go to any orgies.
Dabba 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 da da ba 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 ba